Hello. Hello. Thank you for joining me tonight. Anyway, come on in, and welcome to my Facebook Live. I am giving people a chance to log on. I know I just sent out some notifications saying that I'm on live, so welcome and come on in. And hopefully you'll sit for a spell and hang out with me tonight, at least for a little while. I haven't been on in a few days, so I wanted to hop on and touch bases, see how people were doing, and to share some information. As always, I like to come on and share some good content with you guys. So welcome to those of you who have joined. It's my pleasure to have you on with me tonight at this late hour on a Wednesday night. I wanted to hop on. I guess you saw the topic I'm going to be talking about. Are you contributing to your unhappiness at work? And it's a follow along of some Facebook Lives that I've been doing recently about defining your ultimate career goal and why so many people are unhappy at their jobs. And today we're going to figure out if you are contributing somehow to that unhappiness that you're feeling, so that if you are, you can recognize that and nip it in the bud, quite frankly. So I want to introduce myself first of all, for those of you who don't know me, and for those of you who've been on my lives before, welcome back. But I am Vashana Weatherspoon. I am a certified professional coach and trainer who helps to empower professional women to be happy, emotionally healthy, and to thrive in their careers and in their lives. And again, like I said before, I am going to be talking about, are you contributing to your unhappiness at work? If you're joining in, please say hello. And because I like to just know who's on the live with me. And to thank you for tuning in. So I'm going to go ahead and get started because I don't want to waste your time. So I did, if you saw the last live that I did, it was talking about how so many Americans are unhappy in their current employment situation and in their careers and in their jobs. And so this is kind of a follow along, just exploring, some of the reasoning behind why there's so much unhappiness at work. So it was a Gallup poll study that was done it was done this year, that was talking about over half of the American people are unhappy in their jobs. And so what I got to thinking about was, why are so many people unhappy? And many people are unhappy with their jobs for a lot of different reasons, as I said in my last slide. But one of the biggest reasons has to do with their supervisors, or at least this is the thing that people talk about the most. They're dissatisfied with their manager. And over the years, I've heard from many individuals who were experiencing problems with their direct supervisors and they felt like they were being targeted or treated unfairly in most instances when this was the issue that caused the unhappiness at work. And in almost all of the cases, they were pretty much right about their perspective about the supervisor being displeased with them. But in the majority of the cases, they were off a bit, if I can say that, in terms of why the supervisor was unhappy with them. So based upon the instances that I am thinking of, The real reason the manager was displeased with the employee was either their attitude or their behavior. So, and that kind of, the whole supervisor being displeased and kind of lashing out, so to speak, toward the employee kind of begs a different discussion about some of the shortcomings in managers, and I'll probably take out a time to talk about that later. But in the instances of the employees that I've been mentioning, they were disgruntled because they either did not like their work, they didn't know what was expected of them or how to do it, and they were frustrated. And so the managers in turn saw this, picked up on this, noticed that things were not getting done, and came to some kind of a conclusion about the reason why this was happening. Maybe even had a discussion with the employee, and the employee interpreted the need for the discussion a certain way. Most times, like I said, they felt like they were being targeted when the manager pointed out their deficiencies because they didn't think that they had deficiencies and they thought that their performance was great. And they weren't really so pleased when the employer or when the manager said that there were things that needed to be corrected. And this most of the times led to the employee feeling, actually they were feeling like they were not appreciated, is what it boiled down to. And they started to procrastinate and getting their tasks completed, especially the ones that they didn't like doing in the beginning. They were frequently found goofing off in the hallway, at the water cooler, talking to their coworkers about things that probably could have waited or weren't as important because they were trying to avoid this unpleasant task that they were asked to do by their supervisors. They made excuses for why they did not meet deadlines, did not get their end products produced in a timely manner. And, you know, it just kind of was a downhill spiral. And I had the pleasure or displeasure of actually watching this all play out. Hey, Sierra, how are you? Thank you for joining. And so, you know, being in that position, it was actually kind of tough for me because I could see where the employee who was coming to me in confidence was really tormented by what was going on with them at work. And then also being a person that the manager talked to about the issue, then I could see, you know, what their perspective was. And so I was put into a situation where I was kind of being a mediator between the two sides and trying to help each side understand, you know, the other's point of view. But all of that to say that your attitudes and your behaviors, especially if you're the employee, are readily observable by your manager. And the manager, you know, they're humans just like all the rest of us. And sometimes they misinterpret things. They don't quite, you know exactly what is going on, and they might behave in a certain way, you know, as a result toward the employee. And in the instances that I have seen, it always spiraled into something that became increasingly negative, and to the point where the employee ended up leaving, even if they were people who had a great skill set, something that was highly desirable. But because the work situation became so unpleasant, they ended up leaving. So from the manager's perspective, the managers were usually not satisfied with the employee's performance, as I said before, because they felt that the employee was not putting forth the effort, was deliberately, you know, trying to get out of doing work when that may not have been the case at all. They thought that the employees were socializing too much and it interfered with their ability to get their work done. So in other words, they felt like the employee was performing poorly, whereas the employee felt like they were just being targeted because they really were doing what they were hired to do. And you can see, and especially if you've been in this kind of situation before, how this can be, it can be a pretty tough situation to be in, actually. And very uncomfortable for the employees who are experiencing this. I can tell you from having had this experience coaching these individuals behind the scenes. So, bottom line is that your underlying thoughts create your feelings, which determines the actions that you take. And people notice that. And a lot of people nowadays talk about energy and how the energy that you put out, people pick up on that. And I find that to be so true. Even if they don't have a really great interpretation of what's going on, they pick up on the energy that you put out. And so sometimes your attitude and your thoughts and those inner feelings that you think you may be hiding could actually be contributing to some of the problems that you're having at work, which causes you to be unhappy with your work situation. So, a lot of times what I experienced was the employee just feeling like, some of the things that they were being asked to do was senseless. It didn't make a whole lot of sense. They hated having to do it, and, just would find anything else to do instead of that. And of course, the employee was unhappy. The manager was unhappy with the employee. And the employee began to feel like, I'm working so hard and, busting my butt, and I am not being recognized for what I'm contributing. And I don't feel appreciated. And from the manager's perspective, again, they thought that the employee was working on things that were not urgent or important. And instead of what was being assigned to him or her, they were choosing to do other things. So, I've kind of given a pretty lengthy description of, how this happens and how it played out, at least in some instances that I've been intimately involved with. But what I want to talk to you briefly about is what do you do if you're in that kind of a situation? What do you do instead? How do you become proactive? And start with you. So the tips that I want to share is, one, is to really step back, take a look at the situation, and do a self-assessment. Determine if you are somehow contributing to this situation that you are experiencing based upon your attitudes and your behaviors on the job. So if you are habitually late, that's going to cause a problem with most people's supervisors and managers. Are you always away from your desk and avoiding real work? And do you do that on a frequent basis? So when the supervisor happens to be walking from meeting to meeting, do they always see you out in the hallway or you at somebody's desk chit-chatting? So if you do, and if this is, something that you do frequently, then it might be something to be aware of and maybe make some conscious efforts to change. Do you have a poor attitude toward your work? Because if you do, like I said, everything is energy. People pick up on your energy. So even if you feel like you might be hiding it, somebody can readily see and feel that negativity that you might have toward the thing that you are supposed to be doing or that you've been hired to do. And then figure out what is it that you can do to mitigate the negative situation that you're in. So that's where the whole proactive thing comes in at. One is taking responsibility and doing a self-examination and seeing how am I contributing to the situation. And, being real honest about that. Because sometimes you are, and you might not even know the extent to which you are contributing to these problems that you might be experiencing on your job. And the second thing is to, if it's something that you are doing, and if it's like some of these things that I just mentioned, then maybe you want to have a meeting that you schedule with your supervisor so that you can really have a meeting of the minds and come to Jesus, as some people might say. But, to sit down and talk about the situation and what's been going on, accept responsibility if there's something that you have done to contribute to creating the situation. But you want to do more than that. You want to be part of finding a solution, because nothing can be worse than having to go to a job every day where you feel like you're being harassed and targeted and unappreciated. What I have found is that for a lot of these kinds of situations, the problem lies in the employee not having clear guidance and direction, not really knowing what it is that is expected of them. Maybe there's something that they need to help them to get the job done. There's a lot of different variables that could come into play, but you won't be able to really, make one another aware of where you are until you actually sit down and have a really frank and open conversation, clarify the expectations, what are the priorities moving forward so that you know how to manage your time, and be able to rectify the situation that has developed. And if possible, it will be a great opportunity to discuss how you can align the work that you do with your strengths. Most of us, if we're working in our strengths, we like what we're doing, we feel happy, we feel fulfilled, we do an awesome job. So as much as you can align your job duties with your strengths, then, the more favorable it is for you to create a win-win situation. So just something to keep in mind if that's a possibility where you work. And a third thing is to ask for help. And I know a lot of us, and especially when we're on a job, you might feel like, oh, they've hired me, they pay me X amount of dollars to do this job, I need to be able to do it, and you might not feel so comfortable asking for help when you need it. But it's much better to ask for help and have the opportunity to do something well than to do a poor job because you were afraid to ask for help, because that's a situation where your supervisor might not have as much leniency with you. Hello, Carmela. Thank you for joining. As you guys are joining in, just say hello. I'd like to see your names and see who's on, and I appreciate you for joining. And oh, you can't hear me, Bernard? Is anybody else having a problem hearing me? Because I hate to think I'm just babbling on and nobody knows what in the heck I'm talking about. So anyway, let's see. And so what I was talking about is if you can get out of doing, not get out of, that's the wrong. Oh, thank you, Carmela. Bernard, I don't know. Yeah, try the PC. See if that works to help you to get some sound. Maybe it might be the phone. And if not, the replay will be available and hopefully you can hear it there. So anyway, so ask for help. Sometimes there might be just some tools, some software. It might just be a matter of going to ask a coworker, or just saying that you need help so that your manager is able to help to identify somebody who can help you with the task that you need to have done. Sometimes you're just over, your workload is heavy, and you might not be able to get all the things done by yourself that need to be done in the time frame that they've been assigned to you. So that's a good time to speak up and say, hey, I don't know if you realize this, but I have X, Y, and Z that's going to be due in 2 days. And, this is due this time, this is due the next time. I cannot possibly get it all done by myself. Let's figure out how we can get some help so that I can make sure that everything gets done and nothing falls through the crack. So, being proactive and asking for what you need, whether it's guidance, it's tools, if it's an extra set of hands, ask for it. And just make sure that you have everything that you need in your possession to be able to get your job done, because at the end of the day, it is your professional reputation, and that's important. I mean, I know if I'm doing something, I want to do my very best on it. And I want, when the job is, said, when it's all said and done, I want people to have great things to say about the work that I've done and the product that I have created. And so, you want to adopt that same kind of attitude when it comes to your job, even if it's one that you don't necessarily enjoy. But just the fact that knowing that your name is on it, your name is behind it, that means a lot. And it makes me just want to do a great job, even if I don't necessarily enjoy the actual task that I'm doing at the time. And I know you probably can relate to that. Most of us have had to do those kinds of things at one point or another. And so it's often better to try to, oh, great, glad you can hear me. So it's often better to try to mitigate those situations early on and to avoid getting into these really long, unpleasant, and uncomfortable situations which have the potential to just continually spiral downhill, to do it early. And usually if you can, do it early and come to some kind of resolution, then you save yourself a whole lot of headache and trouble and, torment and all of those things that you go through when you're having trouble on your job. And it also can save you from having to go and do a job search. Like I said, the people that I know who had this experience, they ended up leaving the team because they just could not get along with the manager. And then the manager had gotten to the point where they didn't even want them on the team, and they were encouraging them to go and look for other jobs. So anything that you can do to mitigate that situation or to make the job better, then, by all means, take those precautions and take those measures to be able to see if it's something that you can work out. And then at the end of the day, your happiness matters a lot. And if you're in a job that you absolutely hate, and you hate your supervisor and your supervisor hates you, and everything that you do is wrong, well, of course, that's not going to last very long. And especially now when people feel like, they can go out and they can find a job elsewhere, and sometimes they'll even be paid more if they do. And there's actually some studies and research that say when most people leave, they leave to find a new job, they leave the whole company altogether, and they end up making more money in a lot of instances. So, if that's your only option, then by all means, if that's what it takes to get you some peace of mind, then you do that. But we want to make sure that if it's something that you are doing to contribute to that situation that you're experiencing at work that's negative, then you take the initiative to try to fix it if you can. So that is all that I had to share with you guys tonight. I thank you so much for joining me. And Sierra, I saw the hearts. Thank you so much for them, darling. I appreciate you joining, and I appreciate you, Carmela and Bernard, and everybody else who joined the live broadcast with me tonight. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can type them in the chat box. I'll be happy to answer them. Otherwise, that's all that I had to share with you tonight. And if you enjoyed the information, and I know some of you jumped on late, if you want to catch the replay, then please do that, and you can hear what I had to say throughout the video. And if not, please like and share. I appreciate it, and I will be back again soon talking about more career development topics. I think my next one is going to be talking about the difference between management and leadership, and some of those wonderful qualities that we look for in leaders and in ourselves if we are the people who are leading others. So anyway, again, I am Vashana Weatherspoon. I am a certified professional coach and trainer who helps to empower professional women to be happy, emotionally healthy, and to thrive in their careers and in their lives. Hey, Bernard, I'm glad you joined. Like I said, you can catch the replay, and I will be back again. So hopefully you'll be able to catch me again sometime soon. So for tonight, like I said, thank you for joining me and spending a little time with me to hear about some of these things that go on the jobs. And I will talk to you guys next time. Have a wonderful night, and see you later.